getting slower each time, John.
Yeah.
Making everything.
Yeah.
I eat these until
I know that one. Yes, it
Foil.
does.
Put my foil on.
I get. Mm-hmm. Me too.
Good evening and welcome to our October 28, 2024 council meeting. If you would, please turn off your cell phones. And we have a full council present. If you'd please stand, and the pledge will be offered by Councilman Lopez and the invocation by Councilman Andazola.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Creator, we thank you for bringing us together in thy name. We ask you to please be with us, the City Council, as we make decisions for this wonderful community of ours that affects the citizens, our employees, and we are thankful for our department heads, such as our city manager, our assistant city manager, our clerk, and our assistant clerk, which we are grateful for. We are grateful for all of our department heads. And we say thank you for everything you've done for us, Creator. And let's just have a good meeting tonight and get things done in thy name. Amen.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll move on to item number 5. Any comments from the citizens on agenda items? No. Non-agenda items? No. Okay, then we'll close the regular council meeting and reconvene into a public hearing. The public will be closed. The public hearing, as requested by Arizona Revised Statute Section 42-17104. A public hearing will be held for the purpose of hearing comments from the public on the following items. Number 1, Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application. This is a public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and City Council to hold a public hearing relating to the liquor license application for a Series 3 in-state microbrewery liquor license that was submitted by Brian K. Norton, who is an agent on behalf of Red Sun Ventures LLC for the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company that's going to be located at 615 South 5th Avenue in Safford. Background on this is the city clerk. We received an application from the Arizona Department of Liquor Licensing for the new Series 3 in-state microbrewery. The license, again, was submitted by Brian K. Norton, and it's for the brewery that will be located at 615 South 5th Avenue. In accordance with Arizona Revised Statute Section 4-201, a public hearing is required for the application process for the liquor license. The city clerk office did not receive any comments from the public prior to this meeting, and we're open for public comments at this time.
Is there anybody in the public that has any comments? If not, then we'll close the public hearing and reconvene into regular session. The new business, Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm here presenting for the request for Mayor and City Council to recommend either approval or disapproval of liquor license application submitted for a Series 3 in-state microbrewery liquor license that was submitted by Brian K. Norton, agent on behalf of Redson Venture LLC for the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company that's be located at 615 South Fifth Avenue. We have just had the public hearing for this application. Again, the city clerk's office did not receive any comments. There's been no comments during the public hearing. Staff recommends for the council to give the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control the recommendation of approval of the Series 3 in-state microbrewery license application for Redson Adventures for the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company. With this, I stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Mayor, Councilman McGoy, since I looked back on it, this is the first one that I've seen that's been issued for this Series 3.
I'll make the motion. Sorry.
No, I'm good.
I'll make the motion that we approve the Retrograde Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application. Sorry.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Retrograde Grade Brew and Barbecue Company liquor license application. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.
Thank you.
Item number 2, a request for the city council to review and approve the October 14, 2024 council meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion. We approve the minutes from October 14th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the council minutes from October 14, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Number 3, Water Division backhoe purchase.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve the purchase of a Caterpillar 420 XE backhoe loader from Empire Machinery. This would be a cooperative contract purchase using Omnia Partners RFP number 212816-01. The strategic goal is for infrastructure development and maintenance. The background is the City of Safford Water Division currently has a 2006 John Deere 310 backhoe with 4,000 hours. This backhoe has outlived its useful life and has continued to be out of service due to issues ranging from electrical, hydraulical, and mechanical failures. When electrical issues occur that need replacement, a technician is required to travel from Tucson to program equipment before replacing back in service. Staff has found that the contract price submitted by Empire Machinery through Omnia Partners satisfies all the legal requirements of the bidding process. This purchase will be made utilizing budgeted water capital improvement funds. Staff recommends that the mayor and city council authorize the City of Safford Water Division to purchase the 420 XE backhoe loader from Empire Machinery at the Omnia Partners contract price of $158,185.24 plus any applicable tax and or fees. This price includes a trade-in value of $19,000 for the 2006 John Deere 310 backhoe. I would also like to add that the Water Division budgeted a total of $100,000 for a used backhoe. However, with the opportunity of the $19,000 trade-in value of the John Deere and available funds within the capital expenditure to cover the remaining $58,185.24 balance, we recommend to purchase the new 420 XE backhoe. By purchasing new, the city will avoid purchasing equipment that may have pre-existing issues that may manifest after purchase. The new equipment will come with an additional 1-year unlimited hour warranty and a 7-year, 3,000 hour extended warranty. This action would not require the use of additional funds and would be utilizing approved budgeted funds for capital expenditures. That'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Seals, are you using this backhoe on the 8th Street project too?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, this backhoe hasn't been on 8th Street. We've been utilizing other backhoes, and partial reasons for that is just because of the issues that it does come with. But we do utilize that backhoe from time to time in other areas, and it just at times we just have to bring it back or call the mechanics out to go repair.
know we're trying to get that job done on 8th Street, so hopefully this will help you with that and not have you breakdowns.
We do have additional equipment. However, this piece of equipment has been, has outlived its useful life and has needed to be replaced for some time.
Thank you, Mr. Seal.
Anybody else?
Make the motion, we approve the Water Division backhoe purchase.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Water Division backhoe purchase. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4, utility rate consultant selection.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional service contract with Wildan Financial Services to provide a comprehensive rate study for our water, wastewater, gas, electric, sanitation, and landfill utilities systems. This meets our strategic goal of infrastructure development and maintenance. Wildan has provided professional consulting services and financial planning, rate and cost of service studies, operational and management studies for water, wastewater, reclaimed water, electric and natural gas, refuge and stormwater utility clients across the United States for over 2 decades and many here in the state of Arizona. Wildan will be subcontracting a portion of the study to MSW Consultants. MSW Consultants is a specialized consulting company whose key management staff has over 100 years of experience providing municipal refuse management and planning. In August, the city issued a request for qualifications. This RFQ was sent out following all state requirements to prior study consultants, several recommended consultants, along with advertisements in our Eastern Arizona Courier. On September 19th, 2024, the city received 3 statements of qualifications from various consulting firms. An internal committee was formed to review all submittals and scored based on a RFQ evaluation matrix. This committee consisted of professionals from the utilities, public works, engineering, and city management departments. This review committee came to a unanimous decision to select Wildan Financial Services. Staff recommends Mayor and City Council approve the execution of an engineering design contract with Wildan Financial Services in the amount of $158,500 and allow the city manager or his designee authority to execute contract change orders not to exceed 10% of the contract value, if in the best interest of the city to do so.
I'll make the motion, we approve the utility. Oh, sorry.
Seems like the majority of what you're wanting to spend on is the solar program rebate. And because it seems, well, all 3 of you, I guess. And I'm not real crazy about the rebate for solar. Never have been. It's like we're trying to put ourselves out of business. The way it began might have been okay, but I don't feel it's that reliable. I'm not crazy about it. I hope this study shows some of that. I hope the study is not just going to ask questions to make us lean towards having a rebate. And I'd like to keep an eye on that, and I'd like to ask the rest of you too. It don't seem stable enough yet.
Mayor and Vice Mayor Lopez, that's why we're part of the reason why we're doing this rate study. It's been since 2017, and this particular firm has experience working through those solar programs to identify where those impacts are in our system specifically, and then allow us to understand the financial impacts that system has to our finances here at the city. So we're bringing in these professionals to allow them to do what they do for a living and advise us the best path forward for the city.
Yes, sir. And the son been here longer than any of us, so I'm not real crazy about it, that it's that trusting. And I don't want to set up a promises that we're going to pay a certain amount or this and that till we do look at it strong enough hopefully that study will bring this out.
I agree.
You answered a question for me. Our last rate study was 2017.
Yes.
And Mayor, Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Lopez, one of the points of the study will be to bring to council whatever the rate structures are going to look like, including solar. So the idea is that we don't just do a study and come up with an answer. We do a study to analyze possible ways of structuring our rates, part of which would include solar. So if council doesn't want a solar rebate program, you don't need to have one. That would be a council decision. If we wanted to pursue one, we had a work session earlier. It was fairly complicated, but Mr. Brimhall had done quite a bit of research on other entities that had done solar rebate programs that actually were more functional and less costly to the municipality. So the long and short of it is the way that these rates are structured will be strongly influenced by the feedback that we get from council when the rate study vendor comes and makes those presentations. So council will always be in the loop in terms of what those structures end up being.
Yeah, because we have vendors in town promising a lot of stuff to people that do not represent us, even though they've used our logo. I don't mind a fair exchange, but want to make sure what we're looking at, because it already causes us extra metering, net metering. It costs us extra people to do the bills, more than likely. It used to cost us an extra meter at one time. And the safety of the switching to keep our people safe when they're working on it during outages and stuff. I want to make sure everything is falling in place, and we haven't been lackadaisical in this area.
I have a quick question, Mayor. Madam Clerk, just a question. Have we had many construction people come in and saying that they want to fix windows or anything like that? I've been hearing that from several people, installations and all that, and I didn't have an answer for them if they were legit.
Mayor, Councilman Adezola, we have not received any new applications for that type of work.
Okay, if it comes up again or whatever, I'll be sure to get a business card and
Please do.
bring it into the office for you guys to review.
Please do. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Other than that, I would like to make a motion to approve the utilities rate consultant selection.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the utility rate consultant selection. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then we'll move on to item number 11, resolutions. Number 1, resolution R 24-037, non-discrimination, anti-harassment policy. Danielle?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for the Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution R2724-037, a resolution adopting an updated non-discrimination anti-harassment policy. The strategic goals are human resource management, to continue to develop employee support activities that enhance the overall employee morale and employee work environment. The background, the Equal Employment Opportunity and Anti-Harassment Policy in the HR Personnel Manual has not been updated since 1999. Since then, the protected classes and characteristics that are covered by federal law have changed. Protected classes are groups of people who are legally shielded from discrimination based on specific characteristics. Having an updated policy ensures the city complies with current legal standards and is promoting a positive workplace culture. The new policy is an industry standard policy provided by the Society of Human Resource Management and covers the definition of prohibited conduct, the protected characteristics, reporting, investigation, response and retaliation procedures related to discrimination and harassment claims. The recommendation is to adopt Resolution R24-037, which establishes an updated non-discrimination anti-harassment policy promoting fairness and equality in the workplace.
Do you have any comments or discussion?
I know you've been going through our books, files, whatever they are, to try to update different policies that we have.
Mhm.
I don't know what you updated on this one.
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, the main thing that caught my attention with the policy that we have in file is it just simply didn't list out all the protected classes. So the recommended policy lists all those updated protected classes. But more so, it's just a more thorough policy, and the intent was just to be thorough with the policy so that procedures for if we ever did get a complaint and things like that would be addressed properly. So,
Sometimes you and most staff indicate in red what the changes were, addition, amendments and stuff. I saw none in any of this, so I didn't know exactly what I was following.
correct. So it was just a completely new policy, same subject matter, but a totally revamped policy. So instead of following the red line procedures, I provided the old policy and the new policy just because they were so different.
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor, if you look at the top of the policy too, it says superseded date where it says new. So it basically indicates that she basically started from scratch and just came with a completely new version.
Yes, sir. But I didn't really have anything to compare it to, and I'm kind of spoiled that way.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just thought because it was a brand new policy, it would be easier just to look at the old and the new one. Otherwise, I would have just redlined the whole thing. So,
Anybody else?
I'll make the motion that we approve resolution R 24-037, non-discrimination, anti-harassment policy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 24-037, the non-discrimination and anti-harassment policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
This
And we'll
completes-
move on to, oh, I'm sorry, read it.
Read
This completes approval of Resolution R 24-037, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, approving the non-discrimination/anti-harassment policy in the Human Resources Policy Manual for the City of Safford employees.
Thank you. And we'll move on to two, resolution R 24-039, public records request policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to adopt Resolution R 24-039, a resolution adopting a public records request for the City of Safford. The strategic goals is public information and outreach. Background on this is the City of Safford adopting a public record request will facilitate a transparent and informative process of these requests. Public record laws ensure that citizens have the right to access government documents and records. This policy is designed to formalize the process for submitting, processing, and responding to the public record requests, aligning with state regulations. Recent trends have indicated an increase in requests necessitating a clear policy on how to manage them effectively. Implementing a public record request policy will provide clear guidelines outlining the rights of the requesters and the obligation of City of Safford to respond to the requests. The policy will also provide standardized procedures for employees processing requests, which will contribute to minimizing delays and/or confusion. Equipping the staff with the necessary knowledge to handle requests will create effective and efficient responses to requests. Along with properly trained staff, this policy will ensure that there is a proper monitoring and reporting for tracking of requests received and the outcome of the request. Recommendation is staff recommends for the mayor and city council to adopt resolution R 24-039, which will establish a public record request for the staff of City of Safford. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
These requests all go through the same process, or is there different levels of what's got to be answered?
So Mayor and Councilman McGoy, for the most part, they all go through the same process. They'll come through the city clerk's office with the exception of those that go to the police department. Before the city clerk office would disseminate those requests, but in order to kind of lower the confusion of people coming to us and not the police department or vice versa, they have taken that on completely, and then they have to abide by their own proper state statutes, and it comes down to whether the case is still open, if it's a crime, or the report is being requested with the victim rights. And so they have more state statutes that they have to follow, and they have their own policy. But anything else does go through the city clerk's office.
What have we been using up till now?
We've just been following state statutes, so this just kind of gives us more of a formal process. Internally, we're working as a city clerk office to have like a public record request and a record management process, and so this will just facilitate that more for us. So the policy itself completely follows the state statute, but we are just formalizing it in a policy. So that way employees can read the policy and how they need to respond to any public record requests and what the process is.
So you, up till now, you've really kind of like not had no teeth and you just been following state statute.
Right, that's
And-
correct, Vice Mayor. We've just been following state statute, but this just gives us a more formal process of having it in place so employees can go and review. It'll be in just one policy where they can see what state statute is being followed by the public record request policy and how to abide by it. And it also establishes for employees that will request any of these records, whether they're requesting it for work use or for personal use. It also defines that in the policy.
Yeah, I understand why you want it. But so we don't have anything to compare it to either, so,
That's correct.
so this one didn't have any red lines either, but. 'cause
No red
nothing
lines.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
all, Mayor.
I'll make the motion, we approve, resolution R 24-039, public record request policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution R 24-039. It's the public record request policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
This approves resolution number R 24-039, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Safford, Arizona, approving and adopting an official record request policy for the city of Safford.
Thank you. Number 3, resolution R 24-040, media relationships policy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve and adopt Resolution R24-040, the Media Relations Policy, which was previously discussed at a work session on October 14, 2024. Strategic goals include public information and outreach. Background. Since incorporation in 1955, the City of Safford has not had a formal media relations policy in place. This new policy will lay the foundation for effective communication both internally and externally, providing a streamlined process for managing public and media interactions. It is designed to ensure consistent, accurate, and timely information sharing and strengthening the city's transparency and accountability. Analysis: benefits of a media relations policy include establishing clear guidelines for effective communication with the public and the media. This policy ensures that information is disseminated in a timely, accurate, and consistent manner, fostering transparency and accountability. It applies to all city employees, elected officials, and representatives with the goal of streamlining interactions with the media and maintaining a unified message. By centralizing media inquiries through the Public Information Officer, or the PIO, or Assistant City Manager, we can ensure cohesive public messaging and enhance the city's relationship with the media. Compliance with the policy is mandatory for all city representatives, and regular training will be provided to ensure best practices are followed. Recommendation from staff recommends approval and adoption of Resolution R24-040, which establishes a media relations policy for the city of Safford. That said, I will stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
I noticed on here that you put the PIO or the assistant city manager. Are we creating a new position, or is that going, the PIO going to be you? Who is the PIO?
Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman Brandner, that would be me.
Okay.
So one and the same.
Okay.
Currently, that could change in the future, but currently, it's me.
Okay, just for clarification.
Thank you.
I don't know what brought this on. Why do we suddenly need this? Is there anything that happened the last couple of months or anything that caused us to certainly to get this stiff with, because there's a penalty of termination even written in here.
Mayor, members of council, Vice Mayor, as we discussed last meeting, it was a request of council of me. In one of my previous evaluations, we were looking at both the public safety information policy and the citywide media policy. So this actually is something that I think under, not this past eval, but the one prior didn't get done. And so when we brought on the assistant city manager, one of the roles that I wanted him to take on was that of a public information officer. And so he went out and did the research based on the way the industry operates and came up with the policy. So the original request came from council.
I don't know if it was, we need to be talking with one voice, there's no doubt about that. And I told you last meeting, I didn't know if I would be able to follow this. Not because I wouldn't try, but I didn't think I could go to it. And I'm still wondering because it says that you can even terminate us. I would like to see how that's gonna happen. Yeah.
No, I don't think there's any intention of the staff terminating the council. In fact, most of the media policy is designed for internal use. But it was a few years ago when the council decided to take a different approach to the way we looked at administrative policies. And so typically policies of this nature don't necessarily make it to the dais for review by council. But at the request of council a few years ago, we started to bring these types of administrative policies to you. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the stuff from the Human Resources Department and also things like the media policy. So while there is some information on there in terms of addressing elected officials, the goal will never be to keep elected officials from talking their constituency or anything of that nature. It really is really intended for outward messaging through the media and having a process that is coherent, but it's certainly not intended to keep the council from speaking to constituents.
So there wasn't any changes from the last time we talked about it.
I think there were a couple edits, although I think by the time we got to the end of the work session, if memory serves, I asked if there were any further comments. Councilman Brantner had made a few, and I think by the end you were okay with what we had, and so I think the policy as written is what you had before.
So no red lines.
No red lines. Again, see, we were very low on red lines tonight.
Three things brought forward with no red lines, and the possibility of them existing is in there, but I hope we don't fall out of that habit, bringing it to our attention what was changed.
Mayor Ortega, Councilman, Vice Mayor Lopez. No, I think it just happens to be that some of the policies that, for example, that Ms. Nelson brought are so old and so out of date that it made no sense to redline it because you essentially would have redlined the entire policy. In the case of the presentation by the city clerk, that was actually initiated by me because not only were we getting public records requests coming to the city, we were having them come to different departments within the city, and the department heads themselves did not know what to do with them. So again, to coordinate with the police department and to coordinate making sure department heads were getting with the clerk so that we responded appropriately, we came up with a new internal policy. And then, of course, media policy is the same thing. We don't have one. Right, so basically we brought the media policy to you in a work session so we could get feedback, make any adjustments. There really weren't any, so as a result, you end up with the same document.
So old and out of date wasn't a reference to me?
No.
Okay, I'm just checking, but again, red lines and stuff help me because I need all the help I can get from all of you.
Understood.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I just want to say to Manager Casellas and Assistant Manager Bejarano, excellent job. And I want to make a motion to approve Resolution R24-040 Media Relations Policy.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R24-040 Media Relations Policy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One opposed.
This approves resolution number R24-040, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of City of Safford, Arizona, approving and adopting an official media relations policy for the City of Safford.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 12, we'll close the regular meeting and reconvene into a work session. Item number 13, the work session. Number 1, amendment to Title 13.28.020 of Stafford Municipal Code.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This purpose of this is request the Mayor and City Council to approve the changes to Title 13.28.020 of the Safford Municipal Code. This code change will grandfather all existing underground secondary 600 amp and below into the city's electric system. Also going forward, the utility will build, install, own new infrastructure up to 600 amps underground secondaries. All rules on footage, cost, and ownership apply. Anything above 600 amps must be supplied by the owner. Title 13.28.020. Further, no secondary electric service will be allowed above 400 amps overhead. Anything above this service size will be required to go underground. The strategic goals is growth and development. The background, the City of Safford Electric Division would like to follow utility norms within the city, along with other electric utilities within the state. Most, if not all, electric utilities supply wire and terminate to a specified service ampacity. Also limit the size of overhead service ampacity and based off the material kept in the stock for the utility to build along with maintain the system. This move will also put the electric division more in line with other city utilities where the point of demarcation is the meter in most cases. Analysis, the City of Safford Electric Division's goal to standardize materials will be well supported by this change made to Title 13.28.20. Recommendation, staff recommends that the mayor and city council approve the changes to this title.
Great. Now can you say that all in English? I don't understand a single word you just said, and I'm not
Okay.
scared to say it. So tell me in layman's terms what you want us to approve.
Mayor and Councilwoman Bantner, so this is going to standardize all our electric secondaries, and it'll move us in.
What is that?
That is the portion of wire from the utility equipment that brings the voltage down to usable voltage for households and businesses.
Okay. So that's on our pole.
Yes, ma'am, and underground.
Okay. So you're wanting to take it from above ground on the poles and you want it all underground now.
No, ma'am, we're gonna keep it above ground and underground, but we're going to own every bit of it up to a certain ampacity. So larger buildings such like Walmart or your larger commercial, they'll still own their stuff because that material will not be kept in stock. It'll limit the amount of material that we have to keep in stock, and it'll standardize everything and make it easier for the customers because we'll have most of the material.
So like if something goes wrong in theirs because they own it, it'll be up to them to replace it or pay for the
Correct.
part.
With us taking this in-house, we'll own it. If something happens in the middle of the night, they can call us and we will come fix it. Right now, they're gonna have to wait till the next day, more than likely to have an electrician come look at it.
And that goes from the pole to their box.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're taking on the ownership. So over 600 amps, you're having them put in their own infrastructure and digging their own stuff underground and providing you with the materials, not the CTs, but the other materials. So, and then below 600 amp, it was overhead, we went all the way to the mast to begin with. And underground, we didn't. So when you say in the code change will grandfather all existing underground secondaries, that means we're taking on Sunrise Village. We're gonna take on all their underground now.
Vice Mayor Lopez, Mayor, yes, sir. That's our goal. We're gonna make a CIP and bite off a little bit of that at a time, probably do it over a 4-year period, upgrade that, hoping that it'll help attract new homes in the area.
New homes, they exist now. It wasn't put in, it wasn't put in real good to start with. And so now we're taking on the bulk of upgrading their stuff now that's gonna go bad little by little, starting to now, more than likely. But we're taking on that cost. And that's quite a cost to the city of Safford. Even over a 4-year period, you're gonna have to stay after it quite a bit, and the cost.
Yes, sir.
So, and I know you got a boring machine and all that, but there's a lot of junk in there. That's a big bite, Mr. Cook,
Yes, sir.
but you're shaking your head like you feel you can do it.
Yes, sir. I believe it's best interest in the city to do this.
They're not, they're not gonna share any of the cost.
No, sir. We're going to supply all the wire and the ducting.
Okay, now that's all underground in that area. Are you trying to keep everything underground?
Just in that area, sir.
Just in that area?
Yes,
Because
sir.
I thought the majority of stuff we tried to do underground, and the 3 houses on Relation are all overhead. I was hoping that would have gone underground for the future when we widen that road. We had that set up already.
Yes, sir. We do whatever the consumer would like.
Below 600 amps.
Below 600 amps and 400 for overhead.
You shortened up the distance of free also to 100 feet, I believe.
Yes, sir, I did. The reasoning for that, 150 feet puts a lot of strain on our utility poles and also on the service mast. And we're trying to limit that strain on our infrastructure.
Overhead.
Yes, sir.
Underground, you're still going with 100 feet.
There's no limitation. There's nothing in here about any given free distance on underground.
Okay, good. I hope not. I know you're trying to standardize everything, and when coming into it, most everybody else is with these standards, no doubt about it. But taking on that one south of town, I mean, over here is a big, that one makes me have caution. But because of our cost, it was something we didn't do. Are we prepared to take that on?
We had this discussion and we thought about issues like grandfathering, and we felt that the only area in the city where the underground infrastructure or the secondary infrastructure was really a cohesive unit of any size was Sunrise Village. And obviously, we acquired that property in a swap with the co-op many years ago. And so we felt it was in the city's best interest for a variety of reasons to accept that responsibility and then phase the upgrading of that infrastructure over time. Now, as part of that process, we can, to some degree, clean up even the land in there that is on top of that system and try to clean some of that up. That in combination with the fact that we'll be laying a new road through there with Hollywood Road being redone with all new water and sewer and the new electrical. And given the demand for housing, we thought that these types of upgrades might allow us to have more opportunities for affordable housing in the city by kind of upgrading that area of the city, as opposed to the opportunity that if we just said, okay, we're gonna go secondary through the entire city except for this one area, you might have some issues with doing it in that fashion. We thought this was kind of more of the path of least resistance, and we can approach it through it a variety of ways in terms of how we go through and change it out. We can stretch out that time. We can fix it as it breaks. I think the approach that Mr. Cook is offering makes sense. And again, we can try to look at this and say over the next 4 or 5 years, we can go through as part of this kind of life cycle and rebuild some of that infrastructure. So when we looked at the issue in its entirety and we looked at the idea of standardizing the way that our system is structured relative to the rest of the industry, staff thought this was the best approach.
Do you
Okay.
have an estimated cost of what that's going to cost us to do Sunrise?
Yes, ma'am. So the area that has all the trailer houses on it and the RV parks, at today's current price, we're looking at roughly around $500,000.
And we get nothing from the landowner, no help in subsidizing this cost at all?
No.
What is the benefit to the city for $500,000?
think the benefit is that you're upgrading your infrastructure and you're doing more work in that area, so hopefully more people will buy houses or put something in that area to live in.
Isn't that area a flood zone?
I don't think the whole thing is, maybe partially on the northern end it may be, but I'm not 100% sure what portion of that's in the flood zone.
Are we expecting houses to be built down in Little Hollywood?
Well, we have a couple of developments, or one in particular that has been discussed and not built as yet. We anticipate that as we improve that infrastructure, you may see more. And so, again, we felt that all things considered, it would be in our best interest to phase in and upgrade to that system and take on the ownership, because you would essentially be saying we're going to take on the whole city for everything except that one area, which might create some problems.
Is Copper Canyon in this new way that you're talking about, since they're in that same area?
They're in that same area, but there's no issues with their infrastructure. It's much newer.
It just seems like a really steep price for us to take on.
It is a relatively expensive price, but again, if we can phase it over time and do it in sections, I think we can spread that cost out over time. But again, when we're looking at this stuff, we're looking big picture and what the alternatives might be, and we felt that this probably was in the best interest overall. And again, that's, just staff's position on it. It's not, again, that's why we're having the work session. We're bringing it to you to discuss. We can approach it differently if you wish.
So you have flopped on this? Because the last time we talked about this, you were vehemently against.
I was against doing any work in there without going through a wholesale change. And as a result of, I think, the events that occurred before, where we had one individual line that had broken, subsequent to that conversation, council brought up the issue of standardizing our infrastructure in a way that met industry standard. So with that as the basis for analyzing the situation, all things considered, I think it's the path of least resistance for the city. Now, again, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but I think this makes the most sense. Yes, it will cost us a few dollars in the long run, but again, you're going to isolate one area of the city and say everybody else gets secondary except for this one area. That could create some issues.
Well, this is gonna cost all the citizens of Safford a whole lot of money.
Yep.
And it's gonna benefit that one owner that won't kick in. That's the person who's gonna benefit from this.
It would, yes.
I don't know, I'm having a hard time swallowing that.
Okay.
Truthfully, it will benefit every owner that has underground, because once we take all the underground, if anything happens, we go in and replace it for free.
Well, you're doing that a whole bunch of places we don't have a problem, but it sounds like we're doing this because we do have a problem down there. And that's why we're doing this, and that's
It's not just.
not a reason to do this.
Yeah, it's not just because we have a problem, it's because it would be the only area of the city where you wouldn't be making the change to the code.
So, in just one point, we already own this existing system that's down there. It's sub-grade to any current system anywhere in the state as far as this direct bury with this material. And ultimately, if any work has to be done in that sub level, it's our employees that are doing that. The losses are all incurred on us. The costs are incurred to the city. If we go in and correct those issues ahead of time, safety levels are much higher, losses are much less, and we're able to do it in a sequenced, staged process where it's much cleaner. And at the end, we have a product that provides to our customers and provides the safety for our employees.
That was going to be my question. We're already on the hook for all that anyway, and we've already had problems.
So something has changed then since the last time lawyers were consulted and letters were written and a line was drawn in the sand where we were not gonna. Something has changed since we last spoke.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed except that
Except that you've all changed your mind.
we have, based on the approach of going to taking on secondary, with that as a premise, we then look at this differently from our perspective. And again, that's why it's a work session. It doesn't mean we have to go forward in that way. But when we looked at this, we thought this would be the best approach.
I wish you could make me believe that we're not doing it for that reason, but
Which reason
area
is that?
to fix that park.
Well, no, I think it's because if we had multiple locations throughout the city, then it would be different. But since we have the one, most of the other infrastructure isn't in this situation, or it's in much smaller areas that are covered. This is really the only area that we have of this kind that's this large and cohesive. And again, it's one of those things where we don't have to go at light speed to change it all out. We know it's on the front end of starting to fail. We don't know what the outcome would be if we know we had a tussle the last time. We thought that this would be the easiest way to go to get that upgraded. Now, nothing has changed in terms of who, if they assess that infrastructure, who owns it? We don't own that infrastructure right now,
Good, it's not our problem.
right? But if we look at trying
We're
to take,
asking for them to give it to us. If you'll give us this, we'll spend $500,000 on it.
well, we're saying if we go to taking on secondary, then we would take on that secondary, and when we did, we would upgrade it. And again, we don't have to. That's why we're in a work session. If we look at this and we feel like, under the circumstances, it's not something that we want to approach in this way, I'm fine with that. We're just bringing you an option based on the request that we look at standardizing our infrastructure where the city takes on the secondary in a more industry standard manner.
Is there any other areas of the city that need the same upgrade? Because it seems as if, and I still don't know what we're talking about much, but it seems as if we're seriously focusing on one trailer park to upgrade and not really anywhere else. Is there like streets or housing developments? Is there somewhere that's causing us to do this besides one trailer park that's going to cost us $500,000?
Well, I'll let Mr. Cook answer that specifically, but the impetus behind this is not to upgrade the trailer park. It's a byproduct of saying we want to take on the secondary infrastructure, and we feel that in this case, this would be the best approach. So as far as the other areas,
So there's one other area that's got approximately 10 consumers on it. That's up there by the New Hope Church, right there across from the Pinaleno Apartments.
And this is just upgrading it? I mean, because I think you've came out and I had Arnold before I was on city. The reason why I'm not understanding is if you look at Colonial Village right there behind me, you've got 10 houses on one thing that was put in way back when. So when someone runs a microwave, someone else's lights dim. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what are we doing here? What's the difference?
I'm not an electrician, so I won't, or a lineman either, so I won't run into that language quite as well. So we're ultimately changing the ownership from the transformer to the meter on the house. That stretch, currently we require that the home builder or whoever is using that, they own that section. And so if it breaks on Saturday night, they're waiting until Monday morning when somebody's in the office, in some electrician's office someplace to fix it. Industry standard, a lot of companies bring that power to the meter. And so it's from the meter into the house as the homeowners. That's where we're trying to move to. Instead of having this exterior, whether it's a underground transformer to the house and a trench and a conduit, or whether it's an overhead fly into the mast, that ownership would become the city. In every instance, at every location, is what we're changing. Currently, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, all of that from the pole to the meter, was that put in with any inspections, or, I mean, do we know that it's done right, or are we just fighting off whatever happened and whoever happened to throw that in the trench?
Yeah, so the newer infrastructure, we inspected as they installed that.
Newer as in,
I'm not 100% sure, but I would tell you since the 80s, more than likely, pipe was required.
And if I'm remembering correctly, and if I'm not, correct me for sure. And I don't know that it was consensus, but seems like there was a message from the dais way back that it was pretty ridiculous that we didn't own that stretch of,
It definitely doesn't meet industry
w-
standards.
and I don't want to speak for Mayor Couch at this point, but wasn't one of the messages from the dais that
Yes.
it was ridiculous? Why are we the only place that doesn't
And that's why we looked at it, which then when we looked at it, we said,
Right.
if
And I-
we do this, if we just isolate that one area, it's probably best to approach it in this manner, even though it will cost some money, and do it over the long term so we can phase it.
Right.
Again, we don't have to do it. We can continue to do everything the way we're doing it right now and not spend a dime. But I can't see us getting there without, if we're going to do secondary, I think it would be difficult for us to do it and not address that area. And just for Councilman Brantner, and again, jump in there at any point, but the issue in Sunrise Village is they did something called direct bury, which means they put the wire right in the ground. There's no conduit that it travels through. So it's very hard to work on because you got to dig everything up and it's exposed and it allows it to degrade. The idea would be to replace that with conduit and then wire, and then you just pull the wire and replace it when it goes bad. Is that a?
Yes, sir. So industry standard in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even into the early 80s was to direct bury all your wire. It helped get higher ampacity out of the wire. You could get more capacity out of a single run of wire. So it just worked better, and it was cheaper at the time too. Ducting didn't really exist, and when you could find it, it was very expensive.
Inducting just means putting a pipe in the ground in through which the wire would go.
So, but all the primaries already in conduit.
Conduit exists there. We have,
Yes. So we still have to pull some in there,
yes, sir.
which would have to be part of your plan when you go changing the secondaries also. The part of what he's bringing, I'd like that from here on, that we take it on from where we're distributing it to the house, because there's also danger involved with the customer getting into our transformer or our box, and because they dig right up to it, and then somebody else has got to dig. We're going to the same house about 3 times. One time to inspect the trench, another time to inspect the conduit was in there right, to inspect that the meter base is correct, and maybe we can get to 1 inspection on that. That is the new stuff. The Sunrise Village, the conduit is in for the primary. There's a lot of work to be done at Sunrise Village. There's no doubt about it. We now have the responsibility of it because we got it from the co-op. And I don't even know when it was put in for sure. I think the trailer park by the new Circle K is probably another spot that's like this. I just thought of that in my mind. Anyway, the new stuff, I would like to see us go to the standards that you brought up about Mayor Couch talking about it, and the new people from the meter out to our supply, put that in and it be our responsibility. That's a good thing, I feel. But I'm still, with Sunrise Village is that's lots of money and lots of work. There's no doubt about it. But it's ours, and it's only going to go bad.
It's gonna cost more.
It costs more as it goes bad. You might be there after the blue stake, whatever, and what you have to go through, you could be there a couple of days. And then you would have to patch it until you went through and built it correctly. So it's one of them damned if you do, damned if
Well,
you
that's the
don't.
key point for me, though,
Yeah.
is what you just said. It's ours and it's gonna go bad anyway.
It's going bad.
I'd
no
rather
doubt
be
about it.
holistic and,
I don't want to spend the money either, but it's our problem.
Will save us money
And
in the
it's
long
not
run.
going away. But taking on the responsibility of the secondary for the underground to make it the same as the overhead, that's only common sense. Try to limit the inspections too. God.
So again, it's a work session. We're just bringing the issue forward. If there's some adjustments that you feel need to be made, we can make those adjustments. We're not here to act tonight.
And if you want to go for a ride out there, because if you see it and see the mess that it's in, you would want to fix it. The only thing's holding us up is spending the money. But if anybody wants to go for a ride out there, I'm sure we can go out there and look it over.
Why don't we plan on that? Plan on taking a ride out there.
We certainly can make staff available to take anybody out there that wants to see it.
And point to what has to be done, what they're talking
Yeah, some of this stuff is difficult just because there's a lot of terms of art. There's just no way around it.
But pointing at it, maybe we can get a hold of B and see how many want to do it and work up a schedule. I know I would like to go. I think you too, wouldn't you? So there's two that would like to run out.
Yeah, this is year 4 for me, and I still just listen to Arnold
Go out
and
there,
do whatever he says.
you'll scratch your head, but it's not gonna get any better. But I don't know. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
Wished we didn't. Hope we don't, but I don't see any other way at this time.
I think I'd feel better about the money, at least take
Let's
a
go
look at it.
Let's go
What-
for a ride.
what
It'd
I'd
be
looking
easier to
at.
see.
So again, just a work session.
Can I just, I don't know, I missed something somewhere, but we fought this. If I remember, we had a lawyer look at the agreement and we decided that was not our mess.
Correct.
But yet we want to claim it.
If we're going to go to ownership of secondary,
But why are we going to ownership of secondary?
it was,
Is it to fix this?
no,
Because it's
Because it's
industry
really hard
standard.
for me to swallow that that's not why we're doing what
it's
we're
not.
doing.
It's because the request was made of us to look at the secondary. Now, it's been a while, and I had these gentlemen look into it further to bring the presentation, but it came from, I believe it was the mayor, former mayor, but it was a request from the dais, which is why we looked at it at all.
Well, he was dead set against spending any money in there too, but he did agree. I mean, and I agree, it will be better if we own to the meter. But that conduit was available when that was built. Conduit's been available my entire adult life. If they didn't put it in there, it's because they were cheapskates.
Yeah,
And now we're paying for it because they didn't.
yeah, most
yet-
electric
Yet
utilities
we're,
did not put anything in conduit until the early 80s.
well, there's parks built since then here that have conduit. That's a relatively new park.
And this is our first discussion on it, so it doesn't mean we have to act immediately. There may be further kind of analysis we can do. So again, we're bringing it to you. We're bringing in an approach. Doesn't have to be the approach. It's just the start of the conversation.
Well, I agree it needs it, but I just
Going forward with
didn't
the
seem
new
like
stuff.
it's our
Going
bite
forward
to
with
take.
the new stuff, I can see why he wants it. We inherited that mess, and it wasn't put in correctly. Maybe at that time, I don't even remember the standards then, that would have been okay, but that's the way it was built.
Then as it stands now, whoever wants to go out there and see, you'll take us
Gotta
out there
see
and
it's
show us,
underground.
get in touch with B, right? Okay. Anybody else have anything else to bring up?
And we are, oh, sorry, Mayor.
No, no.
So are we digging the trenches on the new stuff, Mr. Cook?
No, sir. That'll be supplied by the consumer.
The consumer is, what about when they get close to the transformer or the service box?
So we'll be there and help them get that last 4 feet in.
Okay, and lay the conduit and
Yes, sir.
pull it all possibly in the same day instead of
Yes, sir. Instead of
3
going,
different days.
yes, instead of having 3 different truck rolls.
Okay,
One.
that's a good move then. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, then everybody's expressed themselves. Okay, then we'll close the work session and reconvene into our regular meeting. Number 15, report on operational items.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm here to give an update on our public surplus auction site. Just to start off, surplus property as it relates to the city of Safford and follows Arizona state statute refers to the city-owned assets that are no longer needed for public use or have become obsolete. According to the Arizona revised statutes, these properties must be disposed of in a manner that minimizes public or maximizes public benefit. This often involves selling, donating, or recycling the items, ensuring that they are not simply discarded, but rather repurposed or made available to other government entities, nonprofits, or the public. So the way we used to do it was we had our on-site auctions. These auctions were held once or twice per year at the fairgrounds. The surplus items had to be stored until the auction, which took up space at the warehouse. It was very labor intensive to move all of the items from the warehouse to the fairgrounds. And the warehouse staff, it took a lot of time for them to do that. And also we were limited to how many bidders we had. And of course, you know, that was based on who showed up at the auction physically at the fairgrounds. Some of the benefits that we have to going online is that the auction, we can post auction items whenever they're available. We don't have to wait for an auction once or twice a year. So the items don't need to be stored for long periods of time. And then we've eliminated the time spent moving the items to the fairgrounds. We have broadened our bidder pool to nationwide. And then, of course, the great benefit to us is that it's absolutely free to us. One of the things I wanted to show you was that on our website, if you go down to quick links, we have a shortcut here to public surplus. And so as you can see on here, these are all the auction items that are nationwide. So you can see from Illinois to California, all that type of stuff. If we want to see what the city of Safford has, we can go to select our region as Arizona and go into city of Safford. And right now, that's the auction items we have listed. We have 4 copy machines that we're auctioning off right now. So,
How long do you have them listed online?
we can list them anywhere from, I think the shortest is 7 days, and then on up to like 14 days or something like that, or longer. Sorry. What happened here?
And remind me how long we've been doing this version. Has it been about a year?
Yeah, so this is my next slide here is that we've been doing it for about a year. And so what our accounting department was able to do was able to give us our 5-year trend of what we did before. And so what we've done in the past is 83,709. And then for this year that we've had it, we're able to generate 91,567.22. So in the first year that we've had it, we've surpassed what we did in the past on site over the past 5 years. So far it's been beneficial to us, I think, and it's saved time and it's very easy to use.
No cost.
Who pays? So the way that this works is, you know, it's free to us to utilize, but what happens is when the person buys an auction item, they're charged an extra 10.5% for the fees to pay for this. And so the consumers are the ones that are actually paying for the site.
And do we do the shipping? Does somebody have to?
No, they physically have to come
It's
and,
all
Yeah.
pickup.
yeah, they physically have to come to the warehouse and pick up the items.
Right. That's impressive.
Have we bought anything?
I bought this actually from there. Yeah, it was a state surplus, and so I bought this from there for $1.07, I think is what it came out to be.
That's another question I was gonna have. Do we put reserves on a lot of items or
You can.
or
It's-
do we generally not?
We generally don't. For the
Right.
most part, we just leave it at $1 to start the bid out, and then you can put reserves on there, and so that is an option. And if something doesn't sell, then we can always repost it later.
You made a good bike, 'cause it has 4 wheels.
Yeah.
Costs us more for the lunch to go get it. I think Mr. Henry has done this or suggested doing this also on bigger equipment, not taking it to the auction drop off out there because we get it roadworthy, take it out there, and we get peanuts on the dollar when it goes to auction.
They buy those old police cars though and make me slow down before I realize it's not real.
You have any other questions for me?
This is a great success.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then we'll go to item number 16, financial reports. Number 1, the P-card reports. Any questions?
I know that we've asked several times, and I know we're behind, but when are we gonna get these showing the more detail that we've been asking for?
Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner, you know, we talk to staff all the time about what it is that they put on there. I think at one point, Finance Department staff was literally going back in and trying to add to it. So we are making the request. I don't know if we're getting the product you want, but the request is being made.
Just because electric was up here, I won't say who, but there's a charge and it says supplies for work. Hey, great, good job. You're working on what? What? What are you working on? And there's not just one, there's 3 instances of that. And there's one good one in there. It says WD-40. I'm like, hey, cool. We spent $43 on WD-40. That's awesome. On what? For what? Just a job or which vehicle?
You want to know what they were using the WD-40 for?
Well, like if they're going to buy it for a specific job, because
My
we've got
guess is no. My guess is they're just resupplying at that point.
that. That kind of be nice to know.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, supplies for work. Great. What are you working on? So I can at least answer this. And going back, we have another Apple Music charge, and I've talked to several people, and they're not happy about it, and they think it's a mismanagement of funds. And I said, hey, I'll bring it up again. All I can do is say, but I understand we've got the money in the budget. I understand that we set forth a budget and we've got the money, but again, we need to make sure that we're using the citizens' money in a way that they would approve of wisely.
And I think that the music charge is because the buildings that we work in are so old that you can't have a private conversation. So I think the intent was to play some background music because there are personnel issues and things that get addressed. And so as a way of trying to mitigate the thinness of the walls and the fact that sound carries, they use music as a background sound to try and drown some of that out.
We got a great radio station that broadcasts for free, Cat Country. Give Reed some credit there. I listen to it on my computer all day long. But back to my original I just want a little bit more detail. That's all.
Well, and we continue to press on it. We'll continue to talk to staff about that and see if we can improve it.
If we could just get more, so if we're getting tires for which vehicle, can we at least number it, something so that we've got something. If someone walked up to me and said, hey, why did he spend this money? I can say, hey, look, he spent it for truck number 12 tires. Well, didn't you just get tires? No, see, the last one was this. I just want to be accountable. That's all. I want to make sure that we are accountable. We're spending their money because it's not ours, it's theirs. We're spending it productively, and I can answer honestly. I just don't want to get sideswiped. That's all.
Understood.
We have to be careful. We don't try to get so much information that staff spends all their time just providing us with information that, not maybe once in 10 years they'll ask, you bought tires for what truck? So, we gotta kind of use our heads.
We'll see if we can improve. Mayor?
there's not a lot of room on this P-card report, but that information exists. It's just not making it to this P-card report because after the last time we discussed this, I went to the fleet manager and asked him about a set of tires that got asked about in here. He says, I can't buy a set of tires without having a mileage, a vehicle number, of this, of this, of this. He says, there's more information on there than anybody should have to provide. The fact that it doesn't make it to this list, maybe we need a different list. I mean, if we want to know that much information, then maybe we need to go look somewhere else. Because according to him, that exists. It just doesn't make it to this list.
Well, I hate to say this,
Well-
but that's the way we've always done it. So
I
I guess we
mean-
could take a look at it and see if we can't make some level of improvement. Our new assistant city manager happens to be overseeing the fleet department, so maybe we can start there. And, but maybe we do come up with a different document that provides additional information. You know, again, it depends on how it comes out of the system.
Well, I have to use this system elsewhere, and so I know that there's a lot of information there, but if it's being asked for and it's being answered, but there's no connection between the two, there's gotta be an answer somewhere there.
We can take a look at it. Maybe it is the matter of using some kind of report. You know, things like vehicles would be in a system, not all systems. And then I'm not sure what the financials look like in terms of accounts payable, accounts receivable, and those types of things, or how the revenues come in, what the system itself, Cassell generates in any type of reports. But, I mean, we could take a look at it and see if we can get something a little more descriptive.
Well, what I was told was that if we buy an oil filter, there's a full page of information based on why that was purchased.
And the point I would make is,
Makes sense to me.
if that has to occur, which obviously it does, at what point do we trust our employees to buy
Yeah.
filters when it's necessary to buy filters, or tires when it's necessary to buy tires without? And I understand that I'll argue against myself right now. Supplies for work is not an acceptable thing to put on the paper. So I'll try to hit both sides of this. We need to trust our employees, knowing that they have to account to that level. So there's that end of it, and then at the same time, just supplies for work is a little too
Yeah,
vague.
we can take a look at it. And again, Mayor Ortega, Councilman Hemphill, each individual employee is going to do this differently, right? And so we can talk to them all. We can ask that they put the information in. Some will, some won't. And so in the past, I think what we have tried to do, and I think the finance director has done, is take staff time out of finance to try to go in there and create more detail in these reports. But we'll see if there are different ways. Again, expenditures happen in different ways. There's different systems. The fleet system's different from accounts payable, account receivable. So the revenue's coming in. So we can try and take a look and see if there's a better, more effective way to get more detail. We certainly can look at it.
I did see that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 different bee removals, and I noticed some weren't in the city. Do we pay for bee removals? Like, are those for citizens? Are those for our employees? What
I
are
think they do pay for bee removals. If there's a hive that's taken up residence in a building or something, we may send people in to get them.
This one's across from Mount Grand Market, which wouldn't be in the city.
So Mayor,
so-
so our water service keeps it cool in the summer, and so they really like to get down into our meter boxes.
Okay.
And so it's specific. We'll go in if there's a problem in the meter that we have to be in it, then we'll go in and remove the bees
That
ahead
makes
of time.
sense. I just saw that and I thought, well, wait, hold on. So
So
That's all.
I guess it just as a generic question, again, not to be argumentative, but does council think that any of these expenditures are being frivolous, or people are just buying things to buy them?
The answer for me would be no. In fact, I asked the mayor to make one final comment. Of those two sides of that one, supplies for work being a little too vague and trusting the employees, I'm way more on the end of trust the employees.
Okay, and again, I don't want to take in the wrong way. I'm
For
just,
me, no is the answer
I
to
mean,
your
the
question.
sense I get is
Everybody
it's
else
pretty,
knows.
we're getting pretty far down in the weeds at this point. And
just
so
you
I
see
understand.
the same thing.
What's that?
Buying the same thing. They're buying a tool, buying a tool, buying a tool. How many different times does one person need a set of hex keys? So if you start going through it and you're looking at it and you're seeing, wait, the same employees
And if
went
you
out and
see
buying
that information,
9
will
sets
you
of
know
hex keys.
how many times they bought hex keys? Would you be able to, from a time frame perspective, link all those together and then at some point provide someone with information that differentiates between when buying it was a good idea and when buying it wasn't?
No, but is it a waste when they're going to Ace Hardware and buying 9
I-
different sets of hex
Again, I couldn't tell you myself, right? But I'm saying,
asking for
based on the
more?
report, are you going to be able to
Yeah,
differentiate
and that
those
would be
two
my question.
situations?
What amount of information would allow us to
Yeah.
accomplish that?
So
And-
what's the
and my
value
answer to
added?
that question is no, there is no amount of information that would allow me to make that determination.
When you look through the reports, are you guys actually looking through them? Because I look through them line by line every single time it comes out, because we're accountable to our citizens. And when they're saying, you guys are spending money, what are we supposed to say? Oh, well, if I'm going to be asked about it, I'm going to give them a good answer. That's my whole point. I'm not trying to pinpoint or make them answer or whatever. Just give me the information so that if somebody asks, we can say, hey, it was for a job. I'm not
I-
asking for their
In
blood
many
type.
instances, they are giving you the information. What I'm saying is the level of detail you're requesting is not going to allow you to create a valuation of whether or not the expenditure was a good expenditure or a bad one. I can write anything I want in there and make it sound justified. You still don't know what they actually did.
True. But it's trust and verify.
Trust,
You trust your employees and you verify.
right? And so we'll try to work at making it more
I
descriptive.
mean, just something more than supplies for a job. That's
Well,
all I'm
I
asking.
don't disagree on that one.
I mean,
I agree. We will press the issue.
we're all adults. We all know how to write a report. We all wrote reports. We can just write, whatever.
Okay, we will work on it. And we will talk about it in staff tomorrow, for sure.
We move on to number 2, revenue over
Just
5,000.
one more.
Did you want to say
Well, I
something?
got Mr. Cook here. $6,000 Border States Bird Guard. That's what it says, Bird Guard. Electric Division, $6,000 Border States Industrial Bird Guard. I know what bird guards are, but this one sounds plural. That'd be the most expensive bird guard I've ever.
Yes, that's primary bird guard that'll go on the center phase on a lot of our steel poles that we have to keep the lights from blinking.
Like
Keeps them off of there.
like a gut or a triangle.
Yes, yeah, it's like a gut.
It's a gut. more
Yes,
or
sir.
less. Okay, that's what now I know. You're putting it on center phase, contact to the steel. Okay.
To the steel and on wood structures where we used 8-foot arms in the past where we should have used 10-foot arms.
We got a bunch of them.
Yes, sir, we do. And
Okay.
we've got a bunch of bird guard stuff.
And this is a good example, Vice Mayor Lopez, is anytime you see Erin Wittenbecker, it's the warehouse. So she buys things in bulk. And so I think if I could explain to you, there's a lot of controls that go into buying with P cards. Every purchase is made with 2 people in the city. So it's not just one single person making the decision. A supervisor reviews that. So all these get approved by a supervisor. We can talk about the other controls. I think Clark has pointed out some to Councilmember Magoy, that there are controls behind the scenes for all of these purchases. And we can talk about, maybe if you saw some of those controls, you can get a little bit more understanding and a little bit more leniency on what you really need to see, because there is controls when it goes to everything. Everything's bought with 2 people. There are controls when it comes to fleet, when we know things are getting replaced. And then there's a warehouse. We buy things in bulk and it gets handed out on a case-by-case, job-by-job basis. So we do have all these things set up in the system. You just can't see that like City Manager Cassell is telling you, that you can't see that from this report. And there's probably really nothing I can give you without giving you these multiple systems that would show you how they get that control going. The P card is just the end transaction. That's how they pay for it. It's not how they went about making that decision to pay for it. So
it's more of utility operator goes to supervisor and says, hey, I broke whatever and I need to go get more. It's not just they're getting in their truck, driving down, buying whatever.
and every department has a different relationship. Some of their departments say, hey, get what you need to get the job done. Some departments say, no, check with me before you go out and make that purchase. So every department manager who's here tonight can probably tell you, this is what I do with my employees. Here's where I leave trust. Here's where I don't leave trust. But every purchase is reviewed by a supervisor. You can assure that at least 2 people look at this before it gets to you. So.
Good. That's good to know.
Thank you.
Troy? Troy? So, do you have more detailed report for yourself from
Yeah.
the department heads?
And we can, like Councilmember Mogoy was talking about, that's the fleet management system. We can show you every one of these purchases would have a fleet work order number on it. Then we can show you what the fleet work order is made up of. And any purchase can show you who's the secondary person that approved it. Every purchase that's done in the warehouse by 2 specific employees here, that's a whole separate system in Cassell that manages the warehouse purchases. They just happen to make bulk purchases with their P cards.
So if any of us have concerns, can we just come down?
Yeah,
to
if there's a specific, do you get a specific member of the community coming to you? We can definitely drill down on it and show you, here's what we saw, here's was the controls in place. And maybe there is a situation where we need to put more controls in place, but I haven't seen the situation yet. That we have a lot of controls in place. People don't just go out and make purchases on their own. They have to really put some logic and thought around a lot of their purchases here. And those were set up long before I came here. I mean, these are things that 20 years ago they set up in the system. So you've got a lot of controls in place.
All right, thank you.
So the fraudulent charge disputes have been resolved.
I sure hope they filed a police report. Did you notice that was in police? So yes, that happens with, they just get your 16 digits and they start using your card. That's what the flaws of credit cards is. If anyone figures out your 16 digits, they can start using your card overseas. Well, we immediately report that and we're not liable for any of that stuff. Eventually that'll all come back to us. So that's the safety that we get through Bank of America.
And the reason, I don't know if any of you read it, but EAC just had their audit, and I don't know if you saw it, but their biggest thing was the P cards and policies surrounding gift cards, and they got zinged on that because gift cards were being purchased. So it's not a bad thing to question it and be, making sure that we're okay, because if we're going to take a loss, that's one of the easiest places. So it's just being cautious.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad thing. I didn't mean to imply that. I just
No,
meant
it's
to.
fine. It's just,
Whenever I'm put into a process at work, I always ask myself, when I make this approval or look at something, is there a value added? Do I really know what I'm looking at? And so at some point, the mousetrap becomes so big that the mousetrap itself becomes overly time consuming. So I'm not saying that we're there yet, and I think we can look at different ways of getting the reports out. But my question is the value added question. Given the reports that we provide to council, how much do you think you could discern from those reports that would allow you to intervene in a way that added value to the process as far as it regards operational activity? That's my only question. And again, we can look at trying to get more detail in there. But at some point, even the oversight of the department heads is somewhat limited. And as the finance director pointed out, most P cards go through a supervisor for review before they go on to get paid.
well, it's good to know that we can contact him if we
Yeah.
have. some of that
Absolutely, absolutely. And if there are any specific requests or areas or patterns that you're seeing, then that would be something of value that we could go address that pattern, and maybe there's an opportunity to have a better process at that point.
Thank you
Thank
then.
you for having this conversation. There was some good information just that needed to be said. I'm glad it was.
Good, yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Okay, then we'll go on to item number 2, revenue over 5,000. No questions? Then we'll go expenses over 5,000.
Those have good descriptions, by the way.
What's
Just
that?
saying, those have good descriptions.
What about them?
They have good descriptions.
Okay, so maybe that's a key for us to go on. So what makes them good, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
They're just in depth.
There's more detail there?
There's a whole lot more room to write.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we ought to take a look at that on the other report. Maybe that opportunity exists there as well.
Like starter and battery replacement for compactor at landfill, just to give an example. not to drag this on, but just so you know.
I have one, Mayor. When we're talking Mingus gas, we're talking propane only? Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Then we'll close the regular meeting and reconvene into an executive session.
Mayor, I make the motion that we go into executive session and take a 5-minute break.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to take a 5-minute break and then convene into executive session.
Vote.
Aye.
Mhm.
Aye.
Anything under 80 is too cold. I have my little heater going.
Right in
Just
her face.
you just-
Okay, we'll go ahead and
Oh,
close the
me?
executive session and reconvene into our regular meeting. Number 20, announcement of current events. Anybody have any?
I do. I'm hoping that, what is it, the 12th, that we have a proclamation hopefully for Native American Month.
Yes.
I know that Bees have been in contact with them. I think it's going in good shape right now. I just hadn't told any of the rest of you how far it was at this point, and if you wanted to go through with it.
I definitely think we should go through with it. That is November 12th, and we'd have a proclamation ready for that particular meeting, right?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, so we are currently in contact with the executive assistant to the chairman, Rambler of the San Carlos Apache Tribe. They are all in favor of coming and doing a opening ceremony of a song and prayer in Apache. And then we'll present a proclamation that I'm currently working on. I just want Mr. Casella and probably Bill to review it. And then there's those minor details we'll be working out to make sure we are meeting their traditions for the council. And so that will be coming on November 12th, which is a meeting on Tuesday, November 12th, because of Veterans Day is closed on Monday.
Yes, we definitely have to respect their traditions. That's one thing for sure. I think it's a great idea.
And then participation in Veterans Day Parade. I believe the mayor has said he's going into it. And B's gonna get something ready. Deuce and a half.
A noose and a half? Is that what I want to make sure. Like a noose?
You see the veterans laughing.
Okay. But yes, I'll have a float ready. We're signed up for the parade. I've gotten a response from Vice Mayor, Mayor, Councilman McGoy, Councilwoman Bratner. So if anyone else wants to join, please do so. We're hoping that this year, with City of Safford being the first year taking the Veterans Day Parade, that it's a big turnout for it.
It's a very, to me, and I think all veterans, it's a very important time. And it's one time, somehow, if we can't use it to some way kind of educate our young ones, get them involved too, because we need them. And right now, they're little, off, they're not paying attention. They will when they get older. We need them now.
Get my hot dog costume ready too.
And our
Would you like an army hat with that or Marine
I
hat?
sure would.
and
you
our
have more
big
than
air
four?
show.
You
Our
need-
big air show's coming
Hot
up.
dog with sergeant stripes.
And
I apologize, Councilwoman.
I'm sorry.
Last I knew, we only had 4 entrants. Have you received
I don't know where that
more?
number came from.
Okay.
Mick Reese is those special events liaison, so he would have the exact number, but I'm pretty sure they have more than 4.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
we can update.
Yeah. Definitely reach out to Mick Reese if you want an exact number, but usually probably the week before is when he gets everybody coming in to sign up for it. So his numbers probably wouldn't even be accurate right now.
and the big air show coming up. We have flyers all over the place. I got one more to drop off. One more, all those you gave me. I only have one left. And you have tickets in your pigeonhole. Those of you that don't go pick your stuff up very often.
Okay, then. Anything else? Any future agenda items? Go ahead.
I just want to request from John, I know we've discussed it several times about not liking the process of the applicants coming forward, whether it's for city council or whether it's for a board or whatever. Can we please have a work session so maybe we can cuss and discuss and get out what we like and what we don't like and maybe clarify that a little bit?
Absolutely. We can have a work session on the next agenda to look at applications in general and have an open discussion, see if we want to change the process up.
Because we have a couple people retiring, right? Or is it one or is there 2?
On Parks and Rec, there's one on the P and Z.
So yes, Ori.
Oh, there's two now.
Yeah,
right?
we just filled it with Cindy that was approved at our last council meeting for Planning and Zoning Commission. And that day of their meeting, we got a resignation from Ori Vaughter. He's moving to the Phoenix area. So, that's why we have another open seat there. And then we're appointing two to the Parks and Rec to make it from 5 members to 7 members.
And I did have a name for when there is an opening on the planning and zoning.
And that'll, yeah, if you can just have them apply, we have the application posted now. So if they can apply, and then I'll send those to the council in an email. And then whatever you guys decide at our next council meeting, how you want to have that process go. It is by city code, you have to have an application process, and anyone from council can nominate from any of the applicants. You vote on it, but if you want to have the opportunity to interview them, then we definitely need to discuss that and everyone be on board to have a application process like with an interview.
Any other requests for agenda items? Okay. If not, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion, we adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.